All right, guys. Last session, you made your way to the abandoned mine shaft, navigating the harsh wilderness and a rather anatomically awkward landmark. Inside, you were teleported to a mysterious underground cavern that, at first, seemed completely empty. That was until Asmo Prime emerged through a glowing doorway, a spell from another dimension, his magnificent mansion. What followed was a heartfelt and heavy reunion, where Prime revealed major truths about Tronald's past. His omnitheon bloodline, the terrifying capabilities of the Aterions, and the sinister lengths Aranta has gone to maintain control over the world of Mortal Azure. We left off with Prime explaining the true power of the Aterions, how they can reshape reality even individually, and assumptions were made that maybe that's why Vizuriel needs Tronald alive, to fulfill his plans. It's fair to say that it left everyone with more questions than answers, so let's get to it.
So, do you know who betrayed me, Prime? Are they still out there?
Well, I'll fucking kill them if they are.
It's strange, actually, because if you never died, you'd have never met Raarh, Tronald. Funny how the world works. Tragic, but funny.
Prime exhales slowly, his gaze sharpening as though the memory itself leaves a bitter taste in his mouth.
It was someone on the Emperor's Council. Someone who knew far too much. Secrets of Aranta, the truth about Lord Tanavir, and what the Omnitheon bloodline meant for the balance of power. His name was Lord Gallius. Gallius was a snake, the kind that smiled while slipping the knife into your ribs. He had ambition, not the kind that builds, but the kind that consumes. He knew the truth about you, Tronald, and that made him dangerous. He was on the inside, whispering in the right ears, selling his loyalty to the highest bidder. When he gave you up, it wasn't for ideology or hatred. It was for leverage, for survival. But you'll be happy to know that Gallius didn't live long enough to enjoy the spoils of his treachery. He's dead now, found butchered in his fortress 100 miles north of Waterdeep. His personal guards slaughtered, his body carved up like a feast for the crows. Whoever did it didn't just kill him. They made it a statement. A bloody masterpiece of vengeance.
Whoa. Lord Gallius? Guys, that's the man we found in Gaba's camp. Do you remember?
Oh yeah, the guy buried under a mountain of rotting corpses. Great day, that one.
Interesting times. Wouldn't go back, though.
Yeah, well, it all lines up now. Turns out the man we found massacred and looted was the same guy who played an active role in screwing me over. Those bribes we found in his vault, pretty damning evidence of his betrayal.
Hold on a second. So you found this guy, dead obviously, and then what? Did you use Speak with Dead or something?
No, I used a vitamancy spell. It let me see the last moments of his life, everything leading up to his death.
And you saw Vizuriel kill him?
Yep, it was a younger Vizuriel, but unmistakably him. Same smug expression, same cold yet burning eyes. He wasn't just there, he was enjoying himself.
I really don't like how aligned he seems to be with you, Tronald. Even before you were reborn, Vizuriel was moving pieces, making decisions that tie directly to you. It's unsettling.
It felt like more than just a vested interest. When I saw him in the vision, it wasn't calculated indifference or cold strategy. It was personal. He was pissed, seething. He didn't just kill Gallius, he brutalized him. He took his time, made it hurt. The way he moved, the way he smiled through it all. It wasn't just a murder. It was like Prime said, a message.
So not just interested in you, but obsessed. That's comforting.
Obsessed, angry, and extremely violent. What a winning combination. You sure know how to pick your enemies, Tronald.
Hold on a second. Why are we still pretending that he's our enemy? Seriously, think about it. Why don't we just take a big fucking step back and look at the bigger picture here? Vizuriel has helped us multiple times. Specifically you, Tronald. Yeah, he's done some terrible shit to us too.
You mean like fucking killing me?
Yeah, like killing you. But even then, he didn't just kill you for the hell of it. He did it in a way that forced Tronald onto a path, made him chase shadows, and ultimately revive you. Don't get me wrong, I'm not justifying what he's done. Far from it. But I think it's time we stop treating this like some tangled revenge plot and start figuring out the actual teams in this game of chess. So, who are the players here?
All right, let's break it down. You've got the Obitas, clearly. Then there's the corrupt Aurorcian Empire. The Aurorcian Rebellion is its own faction. Arcantera's a monster all on its own. I'm sure the Chains of Brass fit in here somewhere too. And let's not forget the other three great nations. Who knows where their allegiances lie right now? Then finally, there's us.
So now we need to figure out what their goals have been and what they are currently. Let's start with the chains of brass. Many, many years ago, they were tasked with wiping out the Omnitheon bloodline. Let's presume this is when Arcantara fled and closed itself off, bordering itself away from the rest of the nations. We can agree on that much, right? Nobody goes in or out of Arcantara without a private invitation. That's the law in Mortal Azure. Then there's the Ororosian Empire. They, along with the other nations, orchestrated the murder and decimation of the Omnitheon bloodline, forcing them to retreat. Arcantara didn't just vanish. They regrouped, reorganized, and harnessed what Eterians they could to take control of the world from behind their walls. They sped up their own technology, magic, and birth rates while dragging the rest of the world into stagnation. The genius of it was the subtlety, slow enough that no one suspected a thing. The decay seemed natural, like the world's balance had just tipped, not that it had been manipulated by a hidden hand. Nobody suspected the Omnitheon bloodline still existed.
And why would they? For all intents and purposes, they were killed off.
And then there's me. As Lord Tanavir, I thought this was wrong. I wanted to destroy the Eterians and end their stranglehold. So I made my way to Auroros and convinced the Emperor to ally with me. We know how that played out. He aligned with my cause, but his betrayal and assassination by his own council ended that. He was succeeded by his son, Octavius, who now works hand in hand with Arcantara, likely to save his own skin. The Ororosian rebels, though, they still believe in Lord Tanavir's cause. They might not know the whole truth, but they're still carrying that torch to break free from Arcantara's grip. That said, I wouldn't put it past Vladislav to know more than he lets on. The man's no fool. If anyone in the rebellion knows about the Omnitheon bloodline, it's him.
Yeah, I wouldn't put that past him.
And then there's the Obetus. Their endgame isn't subtle or scattered. They want the Eterians too, but for an entirely different purpose. They aim to bring forth Vecna and Orcus, two of the most dangerous beings to ever exist, so that Vazuriel can what? Kill all the gods? Is that an assumption or a fact? What are we missing here? I feel like everything is connected, but something's missing, goddammit.
Hold on a second. You're telling me there's someone else out there actively hunting for the Eterians? And not just that, they want to kill all the gods? I just don't see it being possible. For a mortal to even attempt to kill a god is, well, it's madness. Gods aren't just powerful, they're entrenched in existence itself. It's not just the god you're facing, but the legions of divine servants and protectors that stand between them and any would-be challenger. To call it an impossible feat doesn't do it justice.
It's not a mortal, though. It's a demigod, Asmodeus' grandson.
Okay, that would certainly tilt the odds a little, but even then, no individual, no matter how powerful, could accomplish something like that.
Not even with Vecna and Orcus by his side? And the armies they command? Undead, demonic, and otherwise?
That's troubling, but how much of this is fact, and how much is assumption, Tronald? Because that's a leap.
I'd be lying if I said there weren't assumptions in my theory, but the involvement of Vecna and Orcus, that's fact. He's already raised Kaz the Bloody-Handed and is controlling him like a puppet.
What? Kaz is alive again? When did this happen, and where?
White Willow. A couple of weeks ago, maybe. We tried to hold the siege, but it was impossible. We were assaulted by imps, pit fiends, undead. It was chaos. We failed to hold them off. We went toe-to-toe with what we thought was Kaz himself. But after nearly losing everything, we realized he was only a simulacrum, so we retreated. On our way back to Waterdeep, we saw a combined force of Arcantara and Ororosian troops heading to White Willow, presumably to reclaim it. But what happened after that? No clue.
That's bad. Really bad. First of all, Arcantara doesn't give a damn about any Ororosian city. If they moved on White Willow, it wasn't out of the goodness of their hearts. I wonder if they knew that an Eterian was buried deep beneath the bones of that city.
Are you confirming there was an Eterian there then? We read about the possibility of it in the Platinum Sanctum, but it was only speculation.
I'm confirming it. There was definitely an Eterian in White Willow. In fact, it was the first one we planned to destroy. Myself and Lord Tanavir, that is. I don't know how that information ended up in the Sanctum, though. It was knowledge that took us years to uncover, and it wasn't public when Valerius was in power.
But now that I'm thinking about it, that doesn't make sense. If them records were in the Platinum Sanctum, that would mean Arcantara knew about it. So why wouldn't they have acted sooner?
Someone must have put it there recently.
Huh? Who would have put information like that there? Who could have put it there?
I truly don't know. The circle of people trusted with that knowledge was small, smaller even than those who knew of Lord Tanavir's Omnitheon bloodline. It was just me, Lord Tanavir, Aerith, Emperor Valerius, and one or two others long since dead.
Aerith, you're telling me my son was involved with us?
I don't say this lightly when I tell you he was magnificently capable, Tronald. Far beyond his years, Aerith didn't just learn, he mastered. His grasp of vitamancy and strategy was sometimes greater than even my own. He was your son, yes, but in matters of the mind, soul, magic, and to be honest, most things, he was a force of his own, the true definition of a prodigy child.
I don't know why, but that makes me happy. Do you know I saw him recently, Prime? I saw both of them, Elendor and Aerith. It was in a separate dimension, one I created with vitamancy back in my final moments as Lord Tanavir. I don't even fully understand how I did it, but I knew it had to be done. I put fragments of them there, pieces of who they were, untouched by the chaos that was tearing everything else apart. Elendor, he was exactly as you described, bright, full of life, smiling like the weight of the world had never touched him. And Aerith was intense, focused. There was something in his eyes, Prime, something I can't explain. It wasn't just intelligence. It was this drive, like he could see 10 steps ahead of everyone else. He carried himself like the world was his to shape, calculated, composed. But beneath all of that, he was still my son. I could feel it, even in that fractured moment. They were there, Prime, not fully, but enough to remind me of who they were and what I lost.
This might be a dumb question, but have you tried scrying on him? To see if he's still out there? To find where he might be?
I feel the heat rise in my cheeks, a mix of embarrassment and frustration bubbling to the surface. I rub my temples, avoiding everyone's gaze. Until recently, Prime, I could barely even remember his face, let alone think clearly enough to try and find him. It's not something I've been ready for.
Prime takes a step closer, his voice softer now, almost hesitant.
Do you want to give it a go? Or would you prefer if I tried? It's your call, Tronald. But if there's a chance...
All right, I'll give it a go. You know, since I started my life as this Tronald, I thought both of my sons were gone, dead, taken from me by Aranta, or fate, or my own failures. I didn't know. I just accepted it, told myself it was easier that way. But now that there's even the smallest chance one of them might still be out there, why do I feel so scared? I'm supposed to be this great mage, this force of nature that everyone talks about in whispers. But right now, I feel like a scared father who's too afraid to know the truth. What if he's not out there? Or worse, what if he is, and I've already failed him?
Master, you once told me that courage isn't about not being afraid, it's about standing up in spite of that fear. Do you remember that? I do. You said that to me when I was trembling over my first vitamancy spell, scared I'd fail, and I did fail over and over. But you never made me feel small for it. You told me that failure wasn't the end, it was a step. You taught me that strength doesn't come from being unshaken, but from choosing to stand anyway. So stand now, friend. Be that scared father. Feel that fear, but don't let it stop you. Because if there's even the smallest chance your son is out there, he deserves to see the man who would walk through hell itself to find him. The man who never gives up, even when the odds seem impossible. The man who taught me everything I know.
All right, Joe, I'm going to focus on the scrying crystal and cast scrying on Aerith.
All right, Tronald. You close your eyes and focus on the scrying crystal, your hands trembling slightly as the spell takes hold. At first, there's nothing, just darkness, a void so vast and consuming that it feels as if the crystal itself is fighting you. The energy wavers, flickering like a dying flame, and for a moment, it seems as though the spell will fail entirely. And then, suddenly, everything shifts. You're dragged higher, further, spiraling into the infinite reaches of the astral sea. You're weightless, aimless, hurtling through a realm of endless starlit expanse, shimmering pools of forgotten memory gliding past you. The sea feels alive, ancient, as though it's aware of your presence. Curious, even resentful, the current grips you tighter, pulling you towards something distant, something vast, and then you see it. Floating amidst the sea of stars, its enormity defying comprehension, a library of endless towers interconnected by fleshy tendrils and golden filaments, pulsating with the light of knowledge and pain. The Akashic Records, the eternal repository of all that has ever been known, stretches out before you. The tendrils seem to pulse, as if alive, their organic glow casting strange shadows that twist and writhe. Your path is no longer your own. The tendrils seize you, dragging you deeper into the records through spiraling corridors of knowledge that burn your mind as they pass. For what feels like hours, you are thrown through endless loops of memory and reality until you finally emerge, your consciousness thrust into a chamber. The air is thick, suffocating, the walls pulsating with the same fleshy tendrils that connected to the library. They weave together, forming a vast, grotesque prison. Suspended in its center, bound by those same tendrils, is Aerith. His body is slack, defeated, his head bowed low. The tendrils are pierced into his limbs, his back, his skull, feeding into him, draining him. The chamber is silent, but for the faint, wet sound of the tendrils shifting and pulsing. Your vision moves closer, unbidden, drawn to him as if by an unseen force. Every step feels heavier, the weight of his suffering pressing into your chest like a dagger. Aerith stirs faintly, his chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. His clothes are torn, his face pale, his once sharp eyes dull with exhaustion. You can feel it, Tronald, the raw, unrelenting despair that radiates from him, a burden far heavier than his body should be able to bear. And then, when you least expect it, his head snaps up. His eyes meet yours and they blaze, not with despair, but with urgency, with a burning intensity that cuts through the hopelessness like a blade.
Please, Father, trust me. We need them. Don't destroy them.
And with that, you're yanked back out of the scrying, as if an unseen force has reached into your soul and ripped you free. The connection snaps like a taut rope, and you're slammed back into your own body with a force that feels like hitting the ground after a long fall. Your breath comes in ragged gasps, your heart pounding in your chest, and the crystal tumbles from your hands, its faint glow fading into nothing.
Aerith, he's alive. He's trapped in the astral sea, in the Akashic Records. He was bound, restrained by those tendrils. They weren't just holding him, they were feeding on him, his body, his mind, his very essence. I saw it all. He looked so broken, so defeated. But then he looked at me, right at me, and said, "Please, Father, trust me. We need them." I know what he meant. He wasn't begging for himself. He was trying to tell me something about the Eterians. I can feel it. He's alive and he needs us.
How the hell did he even get there? And how would we even begin rescuing him?
We find someone who can plane shift us to the astral sea, of course. Simple.
Stop being so gung-ho, man. That would be suicide right now. Do you even understand what the astral sea is? It's not a place you just walk into with your fists swinging.
I just don't know what to do. Aerith's alive, but he's trapped somewhere that we barely understand, tied to something we've been trying to destroy for years. And now he's asking me to trust him? To trust the Eterians.
Aerith was always remarkable, capable, strong-willed, brilliant beyond his years. For him to reach the Akashic Records themselves, that's not just extraordinary, it's nearly impossible. But if he's there, Tronald, he's there for a reason. What's throwing me is his message. If he's asking you not to destroy the Eterians, that contradicts everything we work toward. The Aerith, I remember, hated their very existence. He believed they were a curse on the world. For him to change his mind, it means he's learned something. Something we haven't.
I'm so confused right now. Celestia, didn't you say the Eterians couldn't be destroyed?
I never said that. I said the text hinted at it, but nothing concrete. And clearly, this whole mess proves we don't know everything.
Well, she's not wrong. The Eterians, they can't be destroyed by any conventional means. They're almost sentient, alive, Physical and magical force is useless against them, but someone, you, Tronald, developed a new kind of magic, vitamancy. You told me vitamancy was directly linked to the power the Eterians hold, and if that's true, then the only thing capable of destroying an Eterian is itself.
So that's it then. We need to find the Eterians, and we need to protect them. Keep them safe until we figure out what we're supposed to do with them. But what the hell do we do with them?
Roll an intelligence check for me, Tronald.
That's a 23.
All right. As your mind races, piecing together fragments of knowledge and memory, something clicks. You realize there's a certain pocket dimension you've recently gained access to through a particular spell. You can't quite describe it. It's an instinct more than a thought, but you feel confident that the Eterians could enter that dimension. It feels right, like it was made for something beyond the material. You don't know how you know this, but you're sure.
All right, listen up. I've been thinking, and I mean really thinking about the Eterians. There's something I've recently gained access to, a spell that lets me create a pocket dimension. It's not like a normal space. It feels different, like it exists outside of the usual rules of the planes. I can't explain why, but I know, deep down, that it could hold the Eterians safely. They could be stored there, away from everything, protected until we figure out what the hell we're supposed to do with them. So that's the plan. We find them, we store them in that dimension, and we buy ourselves time to figure out how to stop everyone else from destroying or enslaving the world with them.
I hear you, Tronald, but something's gnawing at me. I can't describe it, but it's like something's off about all this.
Well, until you can describe it, keep that gnawing sensation to yourself. We've got bigger things to deal with right now.
What I don't understand is why Auros betrayed Lord Tanavir in the first place. And no, I'm not talking about the personal gain of a few power-hungry individuals. That part's obvious. But the rest of the council, surely they'd want the freedom to advance technologically and magically without being suffocated under Arcantera's thumb. I mean, the people in power now would be disgusted at the thought of having their potential stifled. It doesn't add up.
Because they weren't stifled. They were promised untapped advancements. Did you think Auroros's sudden leaps in technology over the past few decades were a coincidence? No, Celestia. Arcantera didn't just suppress the rest of the world. They fed Auroros, drip by drip, with advancements no one else could dream of. Weapons, infrastructure, spells that rewrite the rules of magic. Auroros aligned with Arcantera because they weren't content to break free. They wanted to become the masters of their own cage. Think about it. You've seen the steam engines rolling through their cities, the arcane reactors powering their fortresses. Those advancements weren't earned. They were given a reward for obedience. Arcantera doesn't need to crush a nation when it can seduce it. They made Auroros believe they were allies, partners in a grand plan, while keeping them firmly under their thumb. And now Auroros believes it's untouchable. That's why they betrayed Lord Tanavir, because they chose to become something worse than slaves. They chose to be collaborators.
It still doesn't sit right with me. Collaborators or not, if they knew they were under Arcantera's thumb, I'd have expected them to make some kind of stand against it, to squirm their way out over time rather than just accepting it.
Saxy, make a straight intelligence check for me.
Huh, what's this for?
Well, roll it, and we will see if you find out.
I'm going to give you a bardic inspiration, Saxy.
All right, with the bardic inspiration, that's a 20 total. But hang on, I feel like this is important, so I'm giving myself a flash of genius as well, so that's 25.
All right, Saxy. With that 25, as you listen to the discussion and piece together everything being said, a memory surfaces, one you've buried deep. It starts as a flicker, a hazy recollection of your childhood. Your parents, brilliant minds who were always working on something extraordinary, always just out of reach for you to fully understand. You see them hunched over a strange device, glowing faintly with runes. It hums with a soft, almost melodic vibration. You were drawn to it, curious, and though you barely understood its purpose at the time, it felt important. More than just another invention. This one was different. You remember watching them, their voices low but urgent, as though every moment spent on the device was both thrilling and dangerous. And then you remember the grand balls. The way your family, once quiet tinkerers, was suddenly thrust into the limelight. The important people your parents spoke with, The whispers, the sidelong glances, the subtle weight of hidden agendas in every interaction. You hated it. You hated the pomp and grandiosity, the suffocating sense of something off. You hated the looks people gave you like you were just another pawn in a game you didn't even know you were playing. And then, her voice, your mother's voice, soft and reassuring, as she leaned down to whisper into your ear amidst the glittering noise of the ballroom.
It's not forever, darling. Me and your father, we're working on something that will help us all.
Her words hang in your memory, a bittersweet echo that you didn't understand then but now hits you with the force of a tidal wave. And then it clicks. The plague. The horrifying plague that swept through your city, taking lives indiscriminately, came not days after you lost your parents. You were too young to understand the connection then, but now the pieces slot together with horrifying clarity. The plague wasn't a natural disaster. It wasn't some cruel twist of fate. It was a punishment delivered by Aranta. Your parents weren't just working on an invention. They were working on a device, something that shouldn't have been possible, something that could have been used to access power Aranta had locked away. The sickening knot in your stomach tightens as the main memory of your childhood resurfaces. It's you, messing with the device. You didn't understand it, didn't know what you were doing, but whatever you touched, whatever you triggered, it didn't just kill your parents, it exposed them. Exposed Auroros's attempts to gain leverage over Aranta, and the plague that followed? That was their retribution, their way of ensuring no one dared to rise against them again. Your breath catches, your stomach churns, and the weight of it all crashes down on you like a falling tower. The memories, the truths, the blame, all of it finally clicking into place.
Oh, fuck. It's worse than I ever thought. I didn't just get them killed. I ruined everything. My parents, they were working on something incredible. Something that could have changed everything for Auroros. A real chance to stand against Aranta, to finally break free. And what did I do? I messed with it, ruined their work, got them killed, and handed Aranta exactly what they wanted on a silver platter. I didn't just fail them, I helped Aranta. I basically handed over our goddamn silver bullet.
All right, stop. Stop right fucking now. For a second, let's pretend that's all true. Every bit of it. I'll tell you right now, I'm glad you did.
But Tronald...
I raise a hand as Saxy starts to protest, cutting him off. Not because of your parents. What happened to them was awful, and I'm truly deeply sorry for it, but I'm glad you stuck it to the new Aurorosian leadership. They thought they could just depose me and pull a fast one by using your parents, presumably geniuses of their time. I'm glad you messed it up, because I don't doubt for 1 second that if this new government achieved what they were aiming for, they would be no better than Aranta. They're the same poison, Saxy, just in a different bottle. Do you think a government that betrays its own for scraps from Arcanta's table would stop at liberating its people? No. They'd seize the power for themselves and play the same game, but under a new name. The world doesn't need another Aranta, and maybe, just maybe, by stopping them, even if it wasn't intentional, you did the world a favor.
Do you really think so?
Saxy, I didn't know your parents. I've never had the honor of hearing their voices or seeing their brilliance firsthand, but from what you've told me, I believe they were people who truly wanted to make the world a better place. They were fighting for something bigger than themselves, something meaningful, and that's no small thing. But here's the truth about people trying to do good. They can be used, twisted, manipulated into causes that do more harm than they ever intended. The road to ruin is often paved with the best intentions because those who seek power have a way of bending even the noblest efforts to their will. Your parents weren't the first, and they won't be the last. And yet, knowing that, they still tried. They didn't give up. They fought to solve the world's issues, even if they couldn't see all the angles. That's courage, Saxy. That's a kind of bravery most people will never understand. If your parents had known the finer details, if they'd understood what was truly happening, I reckon they'd have done everything in their power to stop it. And knowing that you're here now, standing, fighting, refusing to let their work be in vain, I believe they'd be proud of you, proud of the man you've become, and the fact that you're still trying to do good in a world that seems determined to twist it into evil. So yes, Saxy, I think they'd be proud, and I think you should be too.
Thanks for that, Tronald.
Nice. All right, that's where we're going to wrap up this one. We will have to see how our schedules line up for next week, because there's a chance we might end up skipping one, but we will see how it goes. I hope everyone watching at home has had an amazing Christmas, and we will see you all in the new year. See you later, guys.